feel the biggest weapon if they can put CTY into a very good matchup versus the Shadow Fiend and let CTY just dictate the game from there.
So here's your opportunity for your favorite Gyrocopter Dazzle combo. Do you go with that here?
I mean, it's possible. Like against Shadow Fiend, you want to have like the weave to actually counteract some of the minus armor. It could work very well, and obviously the stats just tell us the story about how successful this duo is in the tournament.
They can't really completely expect Secret to run as mid SF because they also run safe lane SF quite a lot when they have to. Or TZ just goes and takes the safe lane with SF, so they shouldn't fully counter it. But you know, there's something about SF that teams sometimes they don't. I feel like they misread SF in the sense that shutting him down on the lane is okay, it's fine, but it's not really the big issue. When you play versus SF, if you don't want him to be a factor, you need to time when he goes and clears those stacks. This is when you need to go and do something about it. You need to ward in advance. You're going to see the supports smoke themselves, place a ward there. And if you contest the stacks when he does them, at least for the experience, you can just go there and leech experience or steal them. This is how you shut down SF really in the early phases of the game.
Yeah, and you mentioned this as well. It might be a safe lane SF. I think it actually probably will be. Secret switch up their cores more often than any other team. This has become a trend for almost all the good teams. But Secret's almost 50-50, whether they'll run RTZ or S4 mid. And people forget, you know, before he sort of swapped roles a bit on this current squad, S4 is an excellent SF in his own right.
Yeah, he is as well. He's dominating mid player, S4 is RTZ. It's really hard. The two of them really can swap roles and positions very easily. So we've seen that opening yesterday, the SF Dazzle, and I don't think we've seen any SF that didn't go for mech first. I mean, it happened, but it was almost all those SFs went for mech first, and it was the group, like, we haven't seen the SF Shadowblade Midas, you know, that type of SF that just goes alone, clears waves, split pushes. It's a team fighting SF that we've seen at this TI so far.
The only unusual pick out of these four is the Winter Wyvern in the first phase. And it's also pretty unusual against a Shadow Fiend because Shadow Fiend has a ton of magic damage. If you Cold Embrace, that's a free double raise.
What I like about Winter Wyvern versus SF is the fact that you can always stop the channeling. Even SF always gets a BKB by minute 20-25, he has a BKB. And then there are very few heroes that can easily cancel his channeling. And Winter Wyvern is one of those. You have heroes such as Bane on support, but you can easily cancel him. It's not the easiest spell to land, although the Wyvern spell is very easy to land.
And both the teams actually have very similar openings as well, like opening with a core, and with Winter Wyvern and Dazzle is like very similar, but like Alan was talking about, why wouldn't they go for the Gyro and Dazzle, which I feel like Seb actually pointed out a very important point, because I think the main reason here is because they just wanted a control on the BKP Shadow Fiend, and Wyvern actually does the same thing as Dazzle in a fight, but provides more in the regard that he will be able to control the Shadow Fiend.
Still, though, Winter Wyvern only 12-20 here so far at TI5. 37.5% win rate. And this, actually, I like the point that Brian K-Poptosis Heron made to me backstage when we were talking about this, that it tends to be the case with Flavor of the Month supports, that the top teams will pick them up and use them really well, and sometimes teams that have played them a little bit less, you'll see really struggle on the hero. eHome is only 4-2 with the Winter Wyvern in this patch. Pretty good record, not a lot of games though.
It's a situational hero. It still is. It's very good, but you can't just pick a Winter Wyvern without any reason behind.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to be a first phase pick, Winter Wyvern, I almost always like to see that against like a tiny Wisp, but against this kind of an open, I'm not so sure.
It can do, to me, I see the BKB cancelling. I also see the anti-push, because when you have SF Dazzle, you need to understand that they can suddenly turn into a heavy pushing lineup. And the Winter, it's one of the best heroes to deal with the push. Like the cooldown on the second spell is actually ridiculous.
And eHome is going very early orientated right now with the Bounty and Winter Wyvern. They have a lot of like gank potentials on the Shadow Fiend. Like both these heroes can actually gank the Shadow Fiend if he happens to be on the mid lane. Which, going back to the point where you guys were saying that probably this game Shadow Fiend is not going to go mid because he's very vulnerable in the middle lane.
Especially on Radiant, he's going to farm the jungle very fast. So he could definitely be a safe lane SF, and that's something that's good also. Like, Secret likes to do this as well, the safe lane SF, because Kuroki gets a lot of space and XP, because SF is one of those heroes who's just going to go farm the jungle. It's not going to slow his farm, which is important for him. And then it's going to give space to Kuroki, and he's one of those players. If you give him space, you know, he always rewards you.
At the same time, I've seen a lot of teams try and do like a Winter Wyvern or a Bounty Hunter row mid on a Shadow Fiend, and they just park Dazzle there the whole time. It's pretty much a dual lane in mid, and with the Dazzle there, it's you don't have to wait for the TP, which is generally what most teams fall in a trap of. Oh, it's like, oh, you'll be okay for 3 seconds, and then they're already dead. But with Dazzle just plain sitting there at the tower, and while stacking up for him, he's really not losing out on that much.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention, that you don't lose nearly as much with a Shadow Fiend when you run that kind of semi-dual mid, because Dazzle can be stacking in the jungle at the same time that he's watching the SF's back, and the SF clears those stacks so quickly that the XP loss is minimal.
I think eHome can go for, from the way I see it right now, Winter Wyvern, Bounty Hunter, both pretty aggressive. I don't know whether or not they want to do Bounty Hunter offlane, but they picked Undying a lot in this group stage.
Have we seen a 3-position Bounty Hunter though? It's almost all 4s now.
I think there was one game maybe, from Phobos, I'd say. I can't remember who was it.
I think you're right.
Yeah, there was definitely one game, I remember.
Bane Dazzle is a pretty scary support duo to get, in the sense that there's not much synergy between the both of them.
But it might not be a support. They run it offlane.
Yeah. Alright, then if it's not a support, it would make a bit more sense. But I think it's a bit scary to pick. If it is the support duo, I don't like it so much. I think it's very so-so.
Yeah, but
especially if they lay
done
together.
this though against a gyro. They'll run Zai offlane Bane and just have that gyro perma enfeebled, and it's just awful.
That's very good. For sure, it's going to shut down the gyro, and it's also one of, when you play versus gyro or SF, you're going to have to deal with the BKB hero 20 minutes in, and sometimes you don't have an answer to BKB, so they just take tower after tower, they get a Roche, and you just watch them because you have no answer. But then, if you get, that getting a BKB counter versus gyro is always needed. He's going to have a BKB super early into the game, and then you have the Fiend's Grip to control him, which is very valuable.
With the Bane pickup, I'm thinking Kuroki has to be on a very strong support that can carry into the late game, because Bane is more of another support. So you want your 4 position. I'm thinking maybe a Visage would be a good addition to their lineup. They have a lot of minus armor, and I mean against Wyvern, you still have Soul Assumption to deal damage through the Embrace, and I mean certainly fits their lineup. Maybe it would be a probable pickup here for Secret.
Definitely, I could see it work. Would be a great pickup for them.
So
Storm Spirit.
Okay, they just have the Storm.
Wow.
It'll be the Storm plus Bounty Hunter. They'll be looking for a lot of pickoffs, left and right. But then again, Bane is also a good hero to deal with. The Storm, you can lock him down for long periods of time, so your teammate can actually finish the Storm off.
I really like the way RTK is drafting right now. I think it's a very solid draft, and he's taking advantage of everything Secret gives him, every information he's been given. So the information now is that they don't really have the best lockdown. You can't really rely on the Bane lockdown because it's a challenging spell versus a Winter Wyvern, a Shuriken Toss. So this Storm Spirit is gonna have a lot of space. It's just scary in the laning phase, but yet again, we said he had a Winter Wyvern and a Bounty Hunter to back him up.
Yeah, there's, by the way, the 4-position hero that you were talking about for Kuro with some late game potential. They've done this recently, run him in a game on Spirit Breaker in the group stages against IG. And again, it's a hero that, it's not your traditional 4-role transitioning into a core, but it still has enough potential, I think, that he'll be well used.
Yeah, but I still feel they definitely might need more lockdown though. I'm not sure, the Storm Spirit, they have Bane, Fiend's Grip and Spirit Breaker charge. It's not really reliable in a lot of scenarios, so the Storm might still have a really good game against the current 4 lineup that Secret has.
This second phase pick from Secret, Bane, Spirit Breaker, really doesn't seem like a Secret draft, because even S4 in interviews, and he's the one drafting, has said how much they favor AoE heroes, because they want to be able to relieve the pressure, just outpush the lanes, control in teamfight. And those heroes they don't do this at all. Dazzle doesn't, Bane doesn't, Spirit Breaker doesn't. They don't have wave clear, they don't have control, they have very unreliable disable, let's say. It's really hard to land your ulti versus a Storm that plays it correctly against Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, but one thing is they are tanky, so we've talked about when you drop a Bounty Hunter, you want to be able to get kills. They have Dazzle to get everyone. And Bane and Spirit Breaker are just, in general, very tanky heroes themselves.
That might be the reason for it.
Yeah, that might be the reason why they're actually going for such a lineup. And they have a lot of actually good lockdown against the gyro. I think they could probably actually just maybe in the early game gank the gyro multiple times with the Spirit Breaker to actually lock him down. And
Ehom's draft is very, very strong.
Yeah, we've seen them done this, I think, maybe once or twice with the Wyvern and Phoenix. Very good team fight. A lot of synergy in between the two ultimates.
So scary.
It's scary, but you know what? Let me bounce this off you. One of the more underrated aspects of Spiritbreaker, he's actually very, very strong in lane. He starts the game off with 927 effective HP against physical damage. That's almost 100 more than any other hero. I actually think that Secret might just be looking to blow him off the lanes here.
If this were VP, they would definitely pick Silencer. I think it's a really good versus against Storm, but
Silencer is really good against Storm and Phoenix, but it's Secret.
it's Secret, so
probably not gonna happen. But looking at the options here, what do they have left for S4?
I mean, I think you could just pick a Viper and just win the lane so hard here. And S4 Viper is pretty strong.
Viper's not enough control though, especially versus those last two.
To me, when I look at this draft, I really feel like they need a miracle because I think they're completely outpicked. But that's how I see it. I think it's very scary. They need to win the lanes really hard because they have only single targets, and the others they have so much control.
Yeah, they have like 4 single target, I think.
Yeah, and SF is not really. He doesn't control the team fight. He just does damage.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. We are almost ready for our first game in this second series of the day. Quarterfinal of the upper bracket. Let's find out whether Team Secret's favourite status is exactly what it is. We'll join our commentary team of Blitz and Philadelphia's very own Eagle, LD.
Thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're live here in Key Arena, and I might not make it out of here alive at this rate, but of course, the Seahawks fans are being kept away for the moment. I'm LD. I am joined here by Blitz. Blitz is a 7K former Zephyr Storm player. What are your thoughts on the Storm pick this game?
Dang. I play other heroes. I just want to get that out there, but...
Come on. Do you really?
Yo, there's a lot. My mom's here. Come on. She's already under the impression that I only play that hero because she doesn't understand Dota.
I'm so sorry.
And so this isn't helping me out, but...
I've humiliated you.
All right, so Storm against this lineup is really good, but the thing is, if I think